Welcome to another video. In this one, I want to talk about systems and how they influence INTP, procrastination, and productivity. Because as an INTP, you have some predispositions to be less productive and more of a procrastinator than other people. Plus, we live in 2025 where lots of people are struggling with productivity because of distractions, because of so many options, because of whatever, right? And because of that, if you're an ITP, likely you'll have been trying to get productive and stop your procrastination for years, right? You've been trying to work on it for so long already. Um, and most of the conventional advice just tells you to use a very structured, more of a systemized approach, right? So, time blocking your entire day, doing as much as you can, eliminating all of the nonsense, very little space for creativity, really, and a lot of rigidity, routine, habits, whatever. And for some people, I'm sure it works. For INTPs, less so because we're not that action oriented, more analytical. And when we do create things and are acting, it's usually more spontaneous or creative or uh, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people got told to implement lots of systems, and it doesn't really work. But I'm here to tell you that you need at least some systems as an INTP. And I think there's four main reasons for that, and that's what I'll be going into in this video. Um, excuse the poor setup. I'm traveling at the moment, so I'm sort of having to figure something out with lighting, etc. But yeah, let's just get into it. The first thing is the cognitive functions, right? So with your TINE or your analysis and exploration, you will likely get a lot of ideas and you will have a lot of realizations when you are analyzing something, figuring something out, connecting lots of dots, etc. When your head is like that, when what's going on inside here is continuous picking apart, figuring things out, connecting dots, asking yourself, what if this is how it works? What if we change this? Would that make it work? Blah blah blah. Um, you're basically bound to have a chaos inside of your head, in short. And so, what I've realized is that when you have at least some sort of a physical or digital system, something outside of your head to help you structure your thoughts, um, to attach certain things to give you some sort of something to hold on to throughout your days, you eliminate your procrastination and you get more productive. So how I've noticed that is what I try to do is the conventional advice, right? Um, Time blocking the entire day, um, spending probably 8 to 10 hours a day working, and also multiple hours doing things like um, meditating or exercising or whatever that's sort of obligatory. Um, and it doesn't work, quite simply. You need more space for your own hunches or your flow states as well. Like I've noticed that when I block an hour and a half of time for work, there's moments where it will be way more effective if I just let myself do 3 to 4 hours of work because I get into flow. I don't think about anything and just get it all done. And all of a sudden, 80% of the work is done. I can do something else. And when you don't give yourself the space for that, you're gonna fall short in a lot of ways, and you're gonna realize it as well because you're clever enough for that. So you need to make a change. So what I did is I implemented more of like workflow, an order of things rather than time blocking, and I just have that on my screen in my bookmarks on Chrome. And having something like that to hold on to eliminating the concept of time basically throughout your days, but at least having some structure gives you more clarity and makes you more content with the fact that you're actually leaving a lot of things open, but it still gives you something to hold on to throughout the day, um, so that you don't completely go wherever with your mind. That's point one. So basically, balancing your structure and freedom. That's actually second point, but that's very closely related to that. Balancing structure and freedom. Another element of having a proper system is having some sort of challenge or some sort of gamification element to it, because most of us are not doing the work we intrinsically want to do, right? Um, which is bothersome, but we cannot demand of the world that they arrange themselves in such a way that we can just do whatever we want. Like, that's not how things work. And so the only way for an INTP to get to a position where they can work on what they really want to work on, still gonna have its less fun tasks, but that's always a part of things. But if you really want to work on what you want to work on, you're gonna have to work for a while, a couple of months, couple of years, to get yourself into that position. And that means that you need something else, not purely intrinsic motivation, to get things done, which is fine. Of course, intrinsic motivation is stronger than extrinsic, but sometimes it simply is what it is. So, gamification or challenging yourself can be a great way to basically get more dopamine from what you're doing. So, I've seen people do things like try to do as much work as you can in half an hour or in an hour, or have a certain task, expect that it takes you 45 minutes, try to do it in 40. Things like that can sort of pull you into what you're doing more so than actually wanting to do it all that much. That's the thing. Gamification is turning it into a challenge as well in a certain way, to do better, um, which sort of ties into the third or fourth point, whatever you want to see it as, which is um, tracking, right? You want a system in which you can track your inputs and your outputs, so you know what inputs are most important, so you know if you're improving. If you say to yourself, I want to get more of output this, and I'm going to do it by doing more of input this, and you don't really know if that's what you're doing something wrong. So tracking allows for gamification. You can make challenges with yourself. You can attach rewards or punishments, perhaps, um, to certain metrics, things like that. It's all not perfect for us, because what's really ultimately the goal is to work on things that give you intrinsic motivation, which means you are analyzing things into oblivion, um, then attaching the different things you pull out of that to new things, coming up with something new. And then, unfortunately, to a degree, you're going to have to actually execute on the things you come up with, depending on, like who you're working with or things like that. But these things have helped me a lot. I'm currently not doing exactly what I want to do. I can give you sort of an insight. I'm currently working as basically a salesperson for an online education business. Why? Well, two main reasons. One is remote income. Two is I'm I want to run my own online education business. And so if I learn the various skills in such a business, I can set myself up to do this work, or to run the kind of business that I want to. Now, am I really enjoying this work? Not much. It's good that I can travel like I am doing now because of the work, but that's extrinsic motivation. Um, and I'm telling myself all day, and I guess it's just like the critic and I, of like, is this really the right path that I'm on? should I really be doing it this way? Why can't I just start my own online education business and then travel? Because that's also possible. It's also remote. It's also with freedom. Um, but anyway, I'm sticking to it for a bit longer. But I'm doing this to get myself in the position as to where I want to be. And the work that I'm doing right now is not at all that fun. I'm basically just having superficial conversations with hundreds of people a day in the DMs. So that lacks depth, creativity, um, analysis, uh, exploration, autonomy. It lacks quite some things. But there is, in multiple ways, these external systems that allow for me to still do this work. So one of them, first of all, is I get some base pay, but I also work on commission. So that's, I guess, what you could call an element of gamification. Is I don't make any money if I don't do my work. Um, so that's one thing. Second thing is, I said to myself, I'm in this to learn the skill, and the way you measure how you've really learned this skill is by making more money, practically, right? If you've read Atlas Shrugged, you'll know that in a certain way you can view how much money you make as a direct result of how much value you've provided. So the better I get, the more value I can provide to this company, the more I get rewarded for it. So that's one thing. But then also, I've had to implement certain other things because sometimes you have days where you don't really see the results of your work yet. I could have a conversation with someone on Monday, book them in for a call on Tuesday. They have the call on Friday, and then my coworker sells them, and then I get a commission from that on Saturday, and only until the middle of the month to come do I get paid. So there's more to it than just the money as a challenge. But what I also do is challenge myself, do more, have more conversations in a day than last day, have higher, booking to conversation rates, time block to a degree, and when I do it well, turn it into green. When I do it poorly, do it in yellow. When I don't do it at all as I should, turn it red in Google Calendar. Different ways. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll just end it at that. But what I will say is, I've only really made this video to set myself up for some other videos to come, where I really go into depth into the systems that I'm using right now to combat my procrastination. And I mentioned that in the last video, and I think all of this will make a bit more sense when I've published all of the videos that I have in my head. But I want to basically share a system with you that is made with INTPs in mind, that is made by INTPs or by an INTP for INTPs, where you have that balance between structure and freedom. You have something that sort of fits your cognitive functions, fills in your weaknesses or blind spots, and allows you to make use of your strengths, and has that element of gamification. All of this is sort of focused on your actions, right? I also want to implement, or share rather, a system for changing your identity, because you have action, you have identity, and then also a system for reflecting on your procrastination. But I'll explain that a bit more later. So stay tuned for that video on this Sunday. The video specifically on the systems for action, like I've just been talking about. Hope that's valuable to you guys. So stay tuned for that. And I guess that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll be sharing a lot more value in the coming videos. Again, it will make a bit more sense when it's all published, and you can tie all the dots together yourself, but that's what you can expect. And see you in the next one.